2011 was such a great time for Kirby games, and I'm definitely not saying this because the only 2 Kirby games I've completed are from that year. Okay, maybe I am, but that's not the point. In 2011, Kirby Mass Attack was released, and if you haven't heard of it, that might be because it's a game that is quite different from the other Kirby games. When I mean different, I mean it's just a platformer with Kirby as the main character. 10 of them. And since you read the title, you already know that we're going to be answering the question, can you beat Kirby Mass Attack with only one Kirby? By the way, don't forget to subscribe if you like these kinds of videos, because we sometimes do gameplays and we sometimes break games to their absolute limit. Just like how we saw if we can beat Donkey Kong without jumping, which you should totally watch after this video, by the way. In the first level of the game, it gives you a tutorial on how to do different things, like picking up 100 fruits gives you an extra Kirby, and defeating enemies gives you more fruit. But there isn't really anything to say about this level since it's just a tutorial level. And now for level okay, something is not right here. In this game, the levels aren't named like level 4 or level 2. Well, I mean, they are definitely, but the number on the level shows how many Kirbys are needed to enter the level. So does this mean that you can't beat Kirby Mass Attack with only one Kirby? Yes, but technically since we beat level 1 without getting another Kirby, we can just go back, grab another one, go into level 2, and oh wow, well, where did my other Kirby go? Well, no time to ask questions, we have to finish the level. But anyways, we will dispose of the extra Kirbys we get at the start of the level so we can continue with only one Kirby. But technically, no, you cannot beat Kirby Mass Attack with only one Kirby. But how many Kirbys do we need in total? Watch until the end to find out, and no, I'm not counting the Kirbys needed to enter the levels. Level 2 is just one of those levels where you just need to run forward for the entire thing and then just press some buttons somewhere in the middle. Level 3 has spiders come down to capture you, and the only way to save yourself from them is by getting other Kirbys to help you. But that would be kind of a problem, wouldn't it? If we couldn't just run past them all. You do have to be a bit careful though, because they can sometimes put a wall in your way that can really throw you off. After we pass all the spiders, we use a cannon to shoot ourselves into the trees. And when we get up there, we are introduced to our first boss fight, Big Birdie. What a silly name. This fight actually takes forever to beat with only one Kirby, but it is possible. And in this section, you could just kind of wait until the door opens and then reach the end. I should also point out that in this game, some of the levels are not mandatory, because out of all the levels in this ring, only one of them will let you progress to the next ring. In level 4, you go underground, and while underground, you have to fight this bat, which is easy, but it also takes forever like our last boss fight. That is pretty much the only thing of note in this level though. Level 5 has you push a stone block and then brutally squish this enemy. After that, we push down this wall and almost get instant karma. Then we have to defeat all these enemies, which takes a long time as always. But then we have to fling this guy out of this world to get the door that he was carrying. I'm not sure how that works, and I do not want to even know how that works. Level 6 has you walking around these bouncy mushroom things, and then you fall down to this pit to fight yet another boss that takes forever to fight. The thing that's different about this is that this battle isn't that easy. The first phase has you defeating moles coming out of the walls before they throw bombs, and the second phase is the same thing, but this time some of the moles have spikes that you can't touch. And the third phase has you go against the big mole himself, Molly. And all he does is just throw bombs like the other moles, but he does just take a long time to beat. And just like that, we're on to the next level. Level 7 is pretty different from the other levels. This is more of like a minigame where you have to dodge enemies as you move up in the level, and then once you make it to the top, you have to connect all 4 pieces of the door to finish the level in the end. So that was pretty easy. Level 8 has you run past some more spiders and use cannons to blast yourself to the next area. After that, you go onto this log to float across the river. This kind of reminds me of that level in Mario Bros. Wii where you have to ride on this platform and fight off any enemies so your platform can actually move, or you can just jump over the top of it. Anyways, after the log ride, you have to hit this tree a bunch so you can progress to the next part of the level, which is just a section where you go under this rolling log that has a convenient hole at the bottom. Level 9 introduces you to the invincibility power-up, which allows you to run through the entire level, including the boss fight. I did pick up a second Kirby on accident, but it is clearly possible with only one. And the first time I played the level, I finished it with 1, by the way. I just forgot to press record, and recorded me grinding to get other Kirbys to unlock the next level instead. Level 10 is kind of different. Everyone hates water levels in video games, and I can definitely see why in this challenge. Every Kirby has a certain amount of oxygen, and if they go to 0, you die. But with only one Kirby, you only have 1 bar of oxygen. which lasts about 15 seconds, so this level is not possible. Good thing we could just skip past it and go straight for the boss of this world, which is none other than Wispy Woods, as always. The first phase makes you launch Kirby at him multiple times, and the second phase and the third phase is that same thing, but you have some more obstacles in the way. And you have to hit some logs off the bottom of Wispy also. After all that, Wispy Woods breathes out this weird mist, and we can move on to World 2, which has to be a sand world like every single Nintendo game for some reason. Level 1 isn't anything special, you just need to run a bit and then you make it to the end. I'm pretty sure that this level is also the shortest level in the game. Level 2 is the same thing, except you have to defeat this flower thing. Level 3 has these rings that you have to pull down to make a passage through the level. Be careful not to get squished though, because the floor goes up when you're not holding the ring. You also have to fight a Mega Stactus at the end of the level. That's actually like the first cool name I've heard in this entire game, by the way. But he isn't too difficult. It seems like most of this challenge is just be careful because you could only get hit twice and wait an hour to get one hit on a boss fight. I wonder if things might change in the future levels, making it almost impossible with one Kirby. Level 4 has these grabby dudes called Clank Sprout, but I like the name grabby dudes better. Anyways, these guys are like the spiders of the underground. They'll grab you and take you down in one shot. Once again, making more than one Kirby much easier. There are also new enemies that throw sand on the screen to make the stage a solid color. It's kind of confusing when you see a wall that turns out to just be a couple of blocks. The end of the level makes you press buttons in a specific order while the spinny thing tries to hurt you. It's not very difficult since you don't really need to fight this thing. Level 5 is something that I feared for. In this level you need 5 Kirbys to enter. And if you play the game normally, you see no problem. But with one Kirby, this level can get pretty difficult. As you can see, this hot air balloon is moving pretty fast, but that is with 10 Kirbys. Playing with only one Kirby is really slow, and it's really easy to get hit by the Gordos on your way up to the top. But I did find it slightly easier to just stay on the left side, since all the Gordos go to the right side at the end of this level. 10 out of 10, cool minigame, but 1 out of 10 Kirbys needed to beat it. Level 6 has some bombs that you can throw to blow up some blocks, but it also has this giant wheel that we have to move as a one Kirby army. It isn't too difficult until we get to this wall. We have to press this button so perfectly so then we can open up the wall. But man, is it difficult to do. We also have another stop at this section where we can move the wheel by using either 10 Kirbys or doing this thing again, which I'm convinced is impossible since we don't have the Mumbun in the way. And yes, that is for some reason this thing's real name. But as it turns out, all I had to do was keep moving it out of the way, and it took me 5 minutes to realize, unfortunately. But I found this out because I was trying to go over the wheel, but instead I accidentally moved it. After you bring the wheel to its final spot, it becomes sentient and tries to kill you with these bouncy balls. This boss fight is all about balance. The Great Gear will bring down some enemies on both sides of him, and each of the sides will weigh him down. So if there's more weight on one side, his weak spot will be facing that side. So our job is to break the enemies on each side so we can balance it out, and uncover his weak point. Once exposed, we just have to hit him a few times until it cracks. After that, we can grab on his gear in the middle and take him out. Level 7 is a level of patience. You have to hide in these holes along the ground as a sandstorm blows by every few seconds, but it's not too difficult if you aren't making risky moves. Level 8 is pretty easy as well. The only thing of note is the boss fight where you have to move bombs over to this crane so it grabs the bomb and it'll explode. Pretty easy level, but the boss fight took way too long to beat. Level 9 has you pull on some rings and go under more ceilings, and it's kind of scary going under these. And after that, we have 3 doors to choose from. You can either do the water section or literally anything else, and I think you guys know what I picked. I actually had a lot of trouble on this part because the touchscreen is hard to use when you're trying to break blocks below you sometimes, but it was possible. Level 10 has you run through the level as sand rises. Not too difficult, but it is a really cool level. Level 11 is not possible, like at all. So when you spawn in, you see a cage with wee birdies in it. Okay, why did they have to give these things the goofiest name though? But anyways, we need to deliver all 6 of them to Big Birdie, the bird that we fought in World 1. Only one problem, or I guess 6 problems. Each Kirby can only carry 1 bird, so if one of them dies, they all die. Not sure how that works, but it just does, okay? And yes, I learned this the hard way. So this means that 5 extra Kirbys are needed to beat this level. And oh yeah, this level is mandatory by the way, so there's no skipping this tragedy. But now we're onto the second boss fight, Lady Ivy. In this fight, we have to weigh down the seesaw looking thing to do damage. After we do that a few times, this bulb thing pops up. We have to pop it, but it takes forever to do so. Ivy tries to shoot you down so you won't be able to pop the bulb. After like 20 minutes of me being in the boss fight, we find out that it is indeed possible to beat this boss fight with only 1 Kirby. With the weird mist collected, we are now able to move on to World 3, which has a pretty cool concept for the first 4 levels. All 4 of these are minigames that are pretty simple and possible to beat with one Kirby. You do have to start some of these with more than one Kirby, but they would have been possible with only one. I'm only saying this since the second you lose all your Kirbys in pinball, you win. So if you had one Kirby, it would end pretty fast. And with Star Surfer, you'd lose one Kirby every time you're hit. And if you were to get a no-hit run, which is pretty easy by the way, you'd be able to beat the minigame with only one Kirby. Level 5 is a water level, but in this level you can find air bubbles. Lots of them, and I was able to navigate through the entire level. But at the end of this level, there is a boss. King Ilongo will swim past the screen, breaking everything in his way during this boss battle. He also leaves behind bubbles so you won't drown. While he is swimming on your screen, you'll need to launch yourself towards him to break these wooden blocks. Although extremely difficult, this boss is possible. Level 6 is pretty easy, but at the end of the level you have to fight in another boss battle underwater, Steel Snapper. This boss provides you with bubbles every time you get a hit on him, so as long as you keep dealing damage to him, you'll be able to beat this level with only one Kirby. Level 7 has you change the way the water goes by turning these wheels. It's pretty easy and there isn't anything too difficult about it. The boss at the end is also pretty simple. Level 8 has you use a torch to unlock more sections of the level. Level 9 makes you run away from Freezy Rex. This dinosaur chases you as you run in this level, and you have to break blocks before he gets to you. At the end of the road, you're met with this thing. Now, we don't have any enemy here to help us, so we just have to get really lucky and not miss a single throw. Thankfully it's possible, but just barely. Level 10 has you break some paintings and go into the doors behind them. And level 11 has you ride the birdies in the clouds as these spike balls try to mess you up. And they are pretty good at what they do, as you can definitely see I am struggling. After that level, we can move on to the boss fight. This time we're up against King Dedede. And you can actually start playing this level with only one Kirby, which is quite odd. But in this fight, you have to bounce the bombs that Dedede throws at you, and you can use the top screen to make it easier as well. After exploding this guy a few times, he takes matters into his own hands and tries to smash you with his big ol' hammer. An easy way to take care of this section is to wait for him to face towards you so you can just run under him. After doing that a couple times, we can move on to World 4. I would also like to point out that you actually get an achievement for beating King Dedede with only one Kirby. Level 1 has you run under platforms as lava rises and lowers. Pretty cool idea. Level 2 is something else. In this level, you have a tank that you can shoot Kirbys out of. But as you can see, there's a counter on this tank. If we shoot, we lose a Kirby. And when he comes back, we can shoot him again. This section requires insane timing, and it is extremely difficult. And after all that, we have quite possibly the hardest boss battle in the entire game. No, this is the most difficult boss in the entire game. In this boss battle, you have to hit these buttons while hitting rockets coming your way. In this battle, you have to manage when you shoot the Kirbys and whether you should shoot a button or a rocket. During this battle, you'll have 4 lives on your tank, so if you get hit by a rocket 4 times, you have to restart the entire level. During the level section of this level, we had to also conserve these lives, but thankfully there were plenty of refills in this section. But on this boss battle, we got nothing. It was just us versus this thing, and I was determined to win, and yeah, it worked. After 40 minutes, I won the game. I took out this robot, Quad Gun. It was worth all 40 minutes, and I gotta tell you guys that level 2 in World 4 of Kirby Mass Attack is possible. Somehow, with damage boosting and just barely saving ourselves from taking damage, we can make it to level 3, which we have to break meteors as they fall down. It's not really difficult, but it's easy to accidentally miss one of these. Level 4 was another run-through level, but this time you have to make sure to avoid these purple guys that'll take you to the start of the level. Level 5 was pretty easy besides the section at the end where we need to lift up this box with this wheel while lava is quickly rising towards us. I died more times than I'm willing to say. Level 6 is a level about light. You need to navigate through the light to get to the end while the ghosts are hiding in the dark. Really cool idea. Level 7 is a level about darkness. You'll have to navigate this level in complete darkness while an occasional lightning strike will give you light. At the end of the level, you'll have to run away from this shadow and defeat him with the statue of Kirby. This level is confusing at times to get through because once again, blocks look like solid walls. Level 8 has you run up this tower while this hand tries to stop you. It's pretty easy to take care of him, but it is just kind of a little obstacle in our way. Level 9 is pretty interesting. You have to beat level 11 to unlock it for some reason, but it's pretty much just a boss rush. You have to fight enemies like the Great Gear, King Ilongo, and this guy that we didn't even have to fight the first time. Anyways, these enemies are slightly harder but definitely possible. And when you defeat all 3 of these, you have to face off against Buzzy Bat, which is actually easier than like 2 of these bosses. But all you really have to do in this boss fight is get into the little cracks he leaves while flying around. He doesn't even have that much health either, which is really nice. Level 10 was kind of difficult. In this level, you were supposed to get parts for your rocket ship, but I kind of didn't. I had to do a no-hit run with one Kirby on this section because of that, and it is insanely difficult. All you have to do really is just shoot down these asteroids as you see them. It's pretty difficult though, because you only have one Kirby to move around, and after you beat that asteroid section, you have a boss fight where this guy shoots lasers at you. It's pretty difficult, but it's also very possible to do. Level 11 gives you anti-gravity for a bit, and it's also a section where you go down this elevator dodging enemies. Not too difficult, but the gravity was pretty fun to play around with. The boss battle of this world is called Skull Lord, and he throws down meteors that you have to catch. This battle doesn't really change if you have one Kirby or not, since the weight of the bolt doesn't really change anything. And looking at the top screen allows you to see where the meteor will land before it even shows up on your screen, making this boss fight pretty easy. After launching at him with a cannon, you can move on to World 5, which is kind of a secret world, meaning that you need to collect all the rainbow coins in the game to unlock it, which I didn't really want to do, so I may have cheated, just maybe. Anyways, the levels in this world are just bosses from each world, except you can play them with one Kirby if you want to. So these are just basically the same bosses from each world, but they drop fruit now, so that's cool, I guess. Anyways, I played them with multiple Kirbys because I didn't want to spend too much time fighting these guys again, since I already knew that they were possible. But after these 4 bosses, we're now able to fight the final boss, Necrodius. This guy throws his hands at us, and we have to destroy the gem on both of them. After that, we have to hit the weak point in the middle of his hands while he tries to close them. He also gives you a warning before then, so you can escape pretty easily. He also shoots orbs out of his fingers during this phase, and you can't get hit by them while in this corner. So I just kind of camped here for a bit. After you destroy his hands, he removes the ground and makes you dodge these explosions that you've probably seen in Smash Bros. He also sends out these scullies that can easily take you away even if you were the one threatening them. Like, look at this! I should have gotten him! And finally, Necrodius himself tries to deal damage to you by shooting a laser. After hitting him a lot of times during the phase where he uses the laser, you can grab onto him and take him out by tapping on the screen a bunch. We have just beat Kirby Mass Attack, and there was only one stage that we couldn't beat with only one Kirby, which means that 5 extra Kirbys are needed to beat this game. So the answer of our question today is no, you cannot beat Kirby Mass Attack with only one Kirby. But we got really close to beating this challenge. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and comment what challenge I should do next. I actually already have a really good video brewing up that I think you guys will really like, so make sure you guys subscribe so you won't miss out on it. Anyways, that's all I've got.